Hi, everyone. This is Latanya, founder of Exit to Excel. Welcome back to the podcast. Now, if this is your first time, we are the podcast that turns career setbacks and career stagnation into opportunities with truth, tools, transformation, practical advice, and positive energy. So, if that sounds like your jam, then you're in the right place. Now, if this is your first time joining me, just a little bit about myself. I've been in HR for over 25 years, having worked for companies like Cognizant, Honeywell, Merck, even Warner Music. And as an HR business partner, I've had to be involved in some pretty tough decisions. Decisions around who gets hired, who gets promoted, who's deemed to be a high potential, and also who gets laid off. Now, on the flip side, I have also been laid off 4 times over the course of my career, most recently in October of last year, and at the age of 50 plus, mind you. Now, the combination of my insider knowledge with personal experience, well, that is what makes this podcast different because I'm not giving just generic career advice. I'm giving real strategies that actually work in today's job market. Now, here's what I know that a lot of career coaches don't, that the rules have changed. And I know that because I have been the one that have been executing the rules, been involved in the rules. So I'm using that information to give people like you a heads up in the job game. Because at the end of the day, you have to understand how the hiring really works. You need to understand the unspoken rules, the unconscious biases, and the behind the scenes decision making that takes place. Because if you know that information, then you do have a leg up and you're able to bring your A game to the job search, which is what I'm here for, to be your coach in this process. So, welcome to the party. Now, before we dive in today, I do have some exciting news about the podcast. Many of you have shared with me that you love the insights we've been giving, but I'm jamming a lot of information into 60, 70 minutes, a lot of information. And so you would prefer or would like to have shorter, focused episodes where you can apply the techniques almost immediately. So starting next week, Exit to Excel is leveling up. Starting on Monday, instead of 1 hour plus episode with a lot of information, I'm going to be dropping 3 episodes a week that are going to be shorter, focused, power packed deep dives that connect back to the bigger conversations we've already had, giving you the strategies and tools that you can put into action. Now, it's still going to be career first, and I'm still going to be giving you that behind the scenes tea, but I'm also going to start weaving in a lot more AI tools and tips. I've been taking a lot of AI classes. I completed an org AI boot camp when I was with Cognizant. I was designated as a Microsoft Copilot champion. And I'm actually in 3 AI programs right now. And I'm going to share that information with you because I want you not only competing smarter in today's job market, but I also want you to be comfortable and build your confidence with the technology that's shaping the future of work. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you're aware as soon as the episodes drop. Again, starting on Monday, we're going to be dropping episodes, shorter episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this with other people who are in the job market, so that they can also start bringing their A game to the job search. So with that, today's episode, I'm actually addressing my people, and that is the population of the 50 plus job seeker. Now, I know, having talked to many people that are 50 and above, it brings a great deal of anxiety because all you can think about is competing against people that are younger than you. And unfortunately, you're not just competing on skills and experience, you're also competing against bias, assumptions, and yes, ageism. And it's a conversation that we need to start having more openly. Now, in an employment context, really people that are age 40 and above are considered to be older workers. And it's this group that is protected by the ADEA, the Age Discrimination in Employment Act. But regardless of the, law, we know that it happens. I've seen it. I've heard the conversations that take place among hiring managers, and I'm going to be sharing that with you shortly. And I've also probably been subjected to it. Now, what I do know is it is real. And just to show you how real it is, there is a federal class and collective action lawsuit that has been filed against Workday. Now, Workday is one of the largest, most popular people management systems out there today. It is considered to be the creme de la creme. And there is a recruiting component that a number of companies use. Now, the lawsuit alleges that the AI powered hiring tools utilized by Workday discriminates against older, disabled, and non white job applicants. Now, in May, a federal judge has granted conditional certification of the age discrimination claims, giving the suit, the ability to move forward. Now, if Workday is found to be guilty, and these tools, that is going to have huge implications, not only for the millions of people that probably applied for a job through Workday, which if you have applied for a job in the past 12, 24 months, probably, I guarantee you at some point you've applied to a job through Workday, but it is also may change the job application process on its head. So stay tuned, but that's just an example of how real ageism is. So because of that, we have to play a different game, a smarter game. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So what we're covering today is one, the truth about ageism in today's market, the mindset shift that separates champions from participants, the 3-pillar framework to position yourself as a competitive advantage, tactical execution that gets results, and then finally, we're going to end the session with some good news. And that is why the future is actually starting to favor experienced professionals. So by the end of this session, you will know how to position your experience so that it becomes your competitive advantage and not a liability. Now, before we go any further, as you know, I have my AskLT community. You can always ask me a question here on YouTube or on my social media, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. Use the hashtag AskLT so that I and my team can flag it. And I will, answer your questions. Some I do like to answer on the podcast because it tends to be a question that many people have. But if you want to be a little bit more private, then also feel free to send me a DM. But here are 2 questions that have come up that directly relate to today's episode. And the first one is Ronald. Ronald asked, should I remove dates from my resume to hide my age? So Ronald, the answer is yes and no. There are some dates you should remove from your resume, but not to hide your age. As we're going to talk about, we're no longer going to hide our age. We're going to use it to our advantage. So stay tuned for that. And then we have a question from Karen. Karen asked, well, how do I handle panel interviews with much younger peers? Karen, I have been there. And it can be a little unnerving, but not if you know, again, how to position your experience so that they see it as leverage and as a benefit to them themselves and the organization. And that is also what we're going to talk about specifically in today's episode. So thanks, Ronald and Karen, for your questions. Again, anyone can reach out to me on my social media. That's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, right here on YouTube. Use the hashtag AskLT, and I'll answer your questions. And I look forward to hearing from you. So let's get on with today's episode. Okay, now I'm going to start this episode with some hard truths because you can't strategize around a problem that you don't acknowledge. Now, the data on ageism is sobering. According to AARP research, 78% of workers over 50 report experiencing age discrimination. The unemployment duration for workers 55 and older is also significantly longer than our younger counterparts. And here's the kicker: ageism is often invisible and very hard to prove. Now, I'm going to share with you what hiring managers really be saying when we are gathering together to look at resumes or screen applicants, or, when we are, the hiring committee to, look at the information from the interviews to make decisions. So, one is, hey, are they too experienced for this role? We don't want someone who'll get bored. Another one is, we need someone hungry and ambitious. Will they have that drive? Another one is, our team is pretty young and energetic, but what they're really wondering is, will they fit our culture? And then another question is, can they adapt to our fast-paced environment and new technologies? These are all ageism. But get this, these aren't about your capability. It is about perception, and the perception that older, more experienced people have and the assumptions that are made. But this is where it gets very interesting. The same companies that are, that express these biases are also the ones struggling with retention. They are struggling with institutional knowledge loss, and they are having to deal with expensive mistakes that more experienced professionals probably could have prevented. So now I'm going to share with you how modern ageism shows up in job descriptions. Digital native. So a digital native is someone, guys, who probably grew up in an era where we never had iPads. Okay. So a digital native is someone who grew up with technology. So when you see a digital native in the job description, it's really code for, we want someone who grew up with technology, i.e., younger. When the job description says, hey, we want someone with high energy, they assume that older workers don't have stamina or enthusiasm. You have probably seen this: recent graduate preferred. That means they are explicitly targeting younger candidates. Cultural fit. Cultural fit is concerned that you won't fit in with younger team members. Now, guys, these are all code words. They're all code words. And not only does it show up in job descriptions, but it also shows up in interviews. Questions about your flexibility with change, your comfort with technology. They're asked in ways that they would never ask a 30-year-old, and assumptions about your salary expectations and energy levels that are not based in reality. Now, I'm not sharing any of this to concern you, alarm you, or depress you. I'm only sharing this with you because you can't outplay a game that you don't understand. Now, the professionals that I work with over 45 and above, and myself, we see these challenges clearly, and I've developed championship strategies in a way that you can overcome them. And so I'm going to give you some of that today. So here is where we separate the players from the bench warmers. Most people 45 and above, they are playing defense. They are trying to hide their age. They are trying to downplay their experience. or they apologize for their expertise. Now, those of us who are winning at the game, we are playing offense. We position our experience at competitive advantage, and we demonstrate our energy through results and not just words. And in that, or because of that, we are able to control the narrative. Now, let me explain an example that I think illustrates this perfectly. I had a client named Maria, and Maria was 52, and she had been job searching for about 8 months after she had been laid off. And she has great experience and she was getting interviews, but she was never getting the offer. And she was convinced that it was her age. Now, of course, we don't know that for sure, but Maria was right in acknowledging that age bias may be coming into play. So we had to relook at her strategy. Now, she was trying to compete like a 30-year-old, instead of leveraging all the experience that she has that made her valuable as a 52-year-old. So here's what we did. Instead of hiding her 25 years of experience, we positioned her as the crisis tested leader who's seen every market cycle. Now, take a look at that. Now, do you think a person in their 20s or 30s would be able to affirm that they are a crisis tested leader who's seen every market cycle? That already right there is going to, set you apart. So instead of apologizing for not being a digital native, we highlighted her cross-generational team leadership skills. So instead of competing on energy, we competed on her judgment, wisdom, and strategic thinking. Now, throughout this episode, I'm going to show you how Maria applied the 3-pillar framework that I'm going to share with you to use her age and experience to her advantage. And because of that, she was able to land a senior director role at a 25% salary increase within 6 weeks of repositioning herself. And again, we were able to use her age and experience as her advantage. Now, I want to explain that the first thing that you have to change is your mindset. And it starts with your age and experience aren't negatives that you need to hide. They are features that you need to highlight strategically. Now, let's talk about this 3-pillar framework. I'm going to get really tactical here. And this is just theory. It is actually what's working right now. So the first pillar is strategic positioning. This is how you position yourself in the market. Most professionals over 45, they're positioning themselves by what they've done in the past, all the things they've done. People who are winning at the game, they are positioning themselves by their future value, all the problems they can solve. So the key is moving from I have 25 years of experience to I have 25 years of pattern recognition that prevents expensive mistakes. Another example, I've managed large teams. Change that to I build multi-generational teams that combine innovation with institutional knowledge. Another example, I've been through multiple economic cycles to I provide strategic stability during market volatility. Now, in my outplacement, part of my outplacement services, which I'm still participating in, our job coach, my job coach, Susan, hi, Susan. She brings all the people she's coaching together for a weekly connect where, we're able to meet one another and, share information and, successes and that kind of thing. So Susan asks each person in our intro, instead of just giving your name, to kind of, use it to practice your elevator speech, right? And this is your 30-second elevator speech that everyone should have. And inevitably, including myself, every person starts out with their name and how many years of experience they have in their role or, industry. And Susan cautioned us that one, starting that off with a bat, you can potentially automatically introduce age bias. And two, your years of experience doesn't necessarily validate your value. So she challenged us to reframe it so that our age wasn't noted in the first, 10 seconds of our elevator speech. And that instead of noting just how many years of experience we have, we are more emphasizing the value that we are bringing to the table. So my elevator speech or introduction became um, I help organizations navigate their most critical moments without losing their best talent. When companies face complex labor disputes, workforce restructuring, or merger integrations, I'm the HR strategist who stands in the pocket, staying calm under pressure to protect both business continuity and employee trust. Now, see the difference between what I was saying before and what I'm saying now? It is problem focused. Okay. And again, it's forward thinking. Another version, if you want to be more specific, is I turn HR crises into competitive advantages, whether it's diffusing high stakes labor relations issues, managing sensitive workforce transitions, or ensuring M&A integrations retain top talent. I help leadership make decisions that strengthen rather than fracture organizational culture. So, see the difference? It's the same person, right? Same intro, pretty much. But instead, I have repositioned it for a more competitive advantage. So, how does this show up? How do you use it? You're using it everywhere. You're using, as I mentioned, for your elevator speech or your intros, like in networking, or if you run into somebody at the Trader Joe's, you're using it in your LinkedIn headline. You're using it as your resume summary. You're using it as your interview talking points. So it's very, very important to get that intro down so that you are able to automatically get people thinking that, oh, they can kind of start foreseeing you in their organization fixing the problems or fixing the problems or you know creating opportunities as you have in the past. So, the second pillar is modernized presentation. And this is your visual, your digital, and your verbal. And you want to make sure that these are not inadvertently signaling outdated approaches. Now, I'm going to be blunt because I want you to be successful. And if I don't tell you, I don't know who else will. But if your LinkedIn profile was taken more than 3 years ago, you need to update it. If your photo, if your profile photo was taken at some kind of ball and you cropped it so that it only shows you, you need to update it. Now, I've talked a great deal about LinkedIn photos. You can go back and listen to that episode, but trust me, it matters. Your photo matters. Okay. So you want to make sure that it is professional and it is updated. Let's talk about email addresses for a minute. Now, I think AOL was finally decommissioned, but in case it wasn't, you want to get rid of that AOL address because it can date you. Even I think maybe even MSN might be a little bit questionable. I'll let you judge that. But even something as simple as your email address can date you. So, hey, it's worth considering whether you want to update it to like a Gmail or something like that. Now, these may seem like really small things, but let me tell you, they create unconscious biases before you even speak. Because this is the thing, your LinkedIn profile is your 24/7 representative, and it is working, it is representing you even when you are not. So you want to make sure it's up to par. So again, just a quick checklist for your LinkedIn profile. Your photo, make sure it's professional, make sure it is recent. Your headline that focuses on value and not just titles. a skills section that includes your current technologies and methodologies, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, and your experience descriptions that emphasize recent wins and forward looking impact. So, Maria's LinkedIn transformation was so important because her old headline read like a job description, like most of them do, so it doesn't stand out. So we changed her new headline to marketing strategist, scaled 3 brands through recession, expert in budget constrained growth. Now, in addition to changing her headline, we changed her photo. We modernized her summary to focus on recent wins, and we made sure her skills section included current methodologies like agile marketing and digital analytics, tools that she had been using, but she didn't think to highlight them. But it's very important to kind of show that you are up to date in your technology. Now, let's talk about pillar number 3. Pillar number 3 is energy demonstration. How are you demonstrating energy? Because energy is important. Now, demonstrating energy and adaptability is not just saying, hey, I'm high energy. It is about demonstrating it through evidence. Now, when I've been in HR working these companies, when hiring managers worry about someone who is 45 or older, as I mentioned, they're not usually worried about their competence. They're really worried about their energy and their adaptability and their cultural fit. And, again, the amateur approach is to just say, hey, I'm high energy, I adapt quickly, I work well with all age groups, but it doesn't really say a lot. And quite honestly, every other candidate is probably saying the same thing. So you want to be able to demonstrate it through specific examples. So here's some examples of what I'm talking about. Instead of saying, I'm comfortable with technology, try, I led my team's transition to remote calibration tools during COVID, achieving 95% adoption within 2 weeks. Instead of saying, I work well with younger colleagues, try, I mentored 3 millennials who were promoted to senior roles, combining their digital fluency with strategic frameworks. And instead of saying, hey, I'm a lifelong learner, try saying, I completed certifications in data analytics and project management in the past 18 months to enhance my strategic decision making. So again, you are able to tie in evidence of what you've done and how it added value. So instead of Maria claiming that she was adaptable and energetic, we showed it through specific examples. When she was asked about working with younger colleagues, she was saying, which we had practiced, we had crafted it out so that she was prepared to, if she wasn't asked the question directly, she knew that she needed to weave this into some of her responses so that if cultural fit or energy or adaptability was a concern, then she was able to address it kind of indirectly. So what she would say is, I mentored 3 millennials in my last role who promoted to senior positions, and I combined their social media fluency with my strategic framework to launch campaigns that exceeded 40%. So that is demonstrating not only, her physical energy, but how she was able to have leadership cross generationally that led to results and not just words. And so after, she started weaving this into her profile, weaving it into her resume, and most importantly, weaving into the interview, that's how she was able to finally get an offer at a higher level and a higher salary. And again, using her age as an advantage. Tactical execution. Um, and what actually plays out during the job search activities. And I'm going to give you specific tactics for the 3 areas where ageism most commonly throws us 45 and above off. So the first one is around your resume. Your resume is a strategic document. is not a list of your entire work history. I have people say all the time, but Latanya, I have all this work history. How can I fit it on 2 pages? We don't need your entire work history. We only want to know, are you able to meet the requirements and expectations that are noted in the job description and add value? And I guarantee you, every single role that you've done did not does is probably did not best demonstrate or illustrate that. So you have to be really selective about what you're going to put on there. So move number 1 is your chronological curation. Again, you don't need to go back 25 years. Focus on the last 15 years of experience and or your last 2 or 3 jobs. I probably wouldn't go beyond that. And if your third job is beyond 15 years, then leave it off. And again, you only want to include the earlier roles if they're directly related to your target position. Now, for me, because I was laid off 4 times, I have worked for about maybe 7 companies over the course of my career, 7 or 8. And so what I do is, I spent 8 years in Cognizant, and that's probably where I've had the opportunity to work more on a strategic level. So my resume tends to be very heavy Cognizant, and I do have some brag statements from my company before that, Sutherland. But then I collapsed all the other companies to include just the name of the company, my position, and the location. And I don't even think I include the dates. And so then that way, when someone takes a look at it, if they have a question about, oh, Latanya, I see you work for Honeywell. What did you do for Honeywell? I can elaborate on it then, but I'm not taking up valuable real estate on my resume that's unnecessary. Because again, when you are giving all that detail, it's just a lot of noise and you're wasting very valuable real estate. So again, I think in most cases, your resume can be limited to 2 pages, 3 at the most, but try to keep it to 2. The move number 2 is your technology integration. Now, guys, we live in a technological world now that is moving at lightning speed. So you want to be able to demonstrate that you are keeping up with technology. So make sure your resume is including the current tools, platforms, and methodologies. Now, I'm going to tell you, most people are just going to put that in a different section in and of itself, to talk about, systems or technology that they use, but you want to naturally mention them in your accomplishments. You want to naturally mention them in your bullet points. That is going to be far more effective. So if you've used Slack, even if you've used Zoom, now I don't know about a lot of you, but Zoom is so natural to me. I wouldn't think that it would be a desired, skill, but you would be surprised. So even something like Zoom would be, impactful. Salesforce, even Workday, any modern system that you can naturally mention your accomplishments will definitely give you an edge up. So move number 3, use metrics that demonstrate scale and impact. So instead of just managing a team or managed a team, try that you led a cross-functional team of 12 across 3 time zones using agile methodologies. Now look at all that was packed in that statement. You're talking about how you led a team of 12, in fact, and they were across 3 time zones. That's very important for global organizations to know. And that you are accustomed to using or skilled at using agile methodologies, which is a current methodology. So just from that statement, you were able to get a lot in there, that will again show how you are up to date and modern with your skills. Move number 4 is a problem solution format on your resume, and that is using the STAR Plus formula. Now, if you looked at my resume episode, we talk about the STAR Plus. Everyone is familiar with the STAR: situation, task, action, result. The plus is the business impact and value. That is what is giving you the home run. And you want to structure those in a way that it relates to future roles. Again, you want to make them forward looking versus looking in the past. Now, again, if you're giving a situation that you've been involved in and you're giving the result, and you're also giving that business impact and value, yes, that's fine. But you want to close it with how you would do that going forward, or how you have been doing that going forward. That is the key. Now, let's talk about your LinkedIn profile more in detail. Because again, your LinkedIn profile is the very first impression that people are going to have of you, more than likely. And believe it or not only are recruiters on LinkedIn looking for talent, you also have hiring managers out there. I've had hiring managers that go out there just to look around, and they'll see a profile of someone that they like, and they'll send it to the recruiter or the HR business partner and say, "Hey, I want to, talk to this person." And a lot of times it's not even a job that's open yet. It's just something that they're anticipating. So that's why it's very important that your LinkedIn profile is completely on point. So the biggest mistake I see people over 45 making with their LinkedIn profile is that they are trying to blend in, and they're trying to, avoid, looking as experienced as they are. And they're just using, generic language. They're very conservative with their positioning, and they are failing to optimize the algorithm. So, your strategy should include the following. One, a headline that positions you as a strategic asset, not just an experienced professional. Remember, we've talked about that, even going back to the 30-second elevator speech, how you are leaving out the number of years of experienced or even highly experienced, and instead using the value or the things you've done or how you make an impact as your headline. An about section that tells a forward looking story, regular engagement that demonstrates current market awareness, and strategic connection building with decision makers in your target companies. Now, here's a key point that a lot of people miss. LinkedIn's algorithm actually favors more engagement and activity more than a profile's age. So what that means is, if you are on LinkedIn posting, reposting, commenting, sharing, LinkedIn is going to move your profile up more than it will for a profile that has been on there for 10 years that there is no engagement or no activity. So I've also talked about this in a previous episode, but even if you are just commenting on people's posts, if you are reposting it, if you are, giving it the thumbs up or the heart sign or whatever, even though those are less important, it's better if you make, say a couple of words, that is engagement. And people have seen when they are engaging more, they're starting to show up in searches more, and it has resulted in more outreaches from recruiters. So that needs to be part of your strategy as well. Okay. Now, tactical execution for interviewing. Now, this is where a lot of people lose the game. And again, it was the same thing with Maria, getting interviews, but not able to close the deal. You have the perfect resume, you have an awesome LinkedIn profile, but if you're not able to nail the interview, then none of that matters. So the championship interview strategy for those of us 45 and above, it has three components. One is energy projection. Your energy needs to be evident from the moment you join the call or walk in the room. Now, this isn't about being fake or artificially hyper. It is about demonstrating your engagement, curiosity, and enthusiasm. And again, this starts from the time that you enter the building, you're greeting the receptionist, you're, walking into the room. You want to project that energy and enthusiasm. Component number two is your technology fluency. Oh, let me go back to energy projection. If you're doing an interview via video, it's going to be a lot harder to demonstrate energy. And that is where you need to be a lot more conscious of your body language, your eye contact, your hand gestures, because all of that is going to be interpreted in some kind of way. So you want to be alert, you want to be engaged, you want to be focused and energetic. Don't be on there yawning, don't be on there distracted, don't be on there looking away, because again, I think that the energy component is going to be a little bit more challenging to demonstrate than being, face to face. And I know that a lot of interviews are taking place via video these days, so I didn't want to gloss over that. Now, going back to technology fluency, if it's a video interview, guys, your technology has to be flawless. Oh my goodness. I've been in interviews where a person isn't able to sign on, their Wi-Fi is spotty, we can't hear them, um, the lighting is bad. All of that leaves an impression. So you wanna make sure that you have good Wi-Fi, you have good lighting, your audio is clear, and that you know the platform that is being used. Let's say, for example, someone has scheduled an interview using Google Meet and you're not familiar with Google Meet, you always use Zoom or Teams. Well, guess what? You need to get on Google Meet before your interview so that you can get familiar with it and you're not trying to figure it out in the moment. Call someone and say, "Hey, I'm gonna Google Meet you so I can get familiar with this platform." Make sure you practice in advance because again, if you are fumbling with the technology, especially at the age of 45 or above, it's almost like, "Oh my goodness. If they can't get this right, how are they gonna work in our organization?" So, please and thank you. Now, component number 3 is strategic storytelling. You wanna tell stories that demonstrate not just what you accomplished, but how your experience translate to solving their current challenges. So let me give you an example of strategic storytelling. Instead of saying, "Hey, in my previous role, I managed a team of 20 people and increased sales by 15%, say, "I recognize that our multi-generational team had different communication preferences. So I implemented both digital collaboration tools and face-to-face check-ins. This approach increased our sales by 15% while reducing turnover by 30%. I'd bring the same strategic approach to building cohesive teams here." So, see the difference there? You're positioning your experience as an asset that solves their problems and not just a list of what you achieved in the past. Okay, so let me share with you some real success stories that illustrates these principles into action because I want you to see exactly what's possible when you execute this exact strategy. So let's talk about the pivot master. So James, who was 48, has spent 20 years in traditional manufacturing and was targeting operation roles in tech companies. So the obvious challenge, he looked old school on paper. Now, let me tell you something about technology companies real quick story. Several years ago, gosh, it's probably been about 8 years ago. My company, I won't mention what company, but we were doing a pitch to ByteDance. Does anyone know what ByteDance is? The ByteDance company. ByteDance is the company that owns TikTok. Now, back then, TikTok was not very well known. I had heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was, right? It was still fairly new. And, whenever you're doing these pitches, I mean, it's a whole big ordeal. You have a room of people, and each person has their part that they're going to present. So we spend 2 or 3 days working on this pitch. And so we're all in the conference room waiting for the executive team from ByteDance to arrive. We get the call that they had arrived. They were in the lobby and they were being led up. So we're up there waiting. The door opens up and I see these kids walking in. And I'm like, who are these kids and where are their parents? They were the executives of ByteDance. Now, when I say kids, I don't mean kids, but the oldest person was probably maybe 33, 34, the oldest person. And there was about 8 of them. I was so taken aback. And one of my colleagues said, "Oh, that's typical for these tech companies. Their teams are very young." And so you will encounter that if you are, interviewing in technology companies. And so that's why these strategies are extremely important because you want to position your age and experience as, value and as leverage. So with James, we positioned him as the operations leader who bridges traditional excellence with innovation. His experience with lean manufacturing, which quite honestly is very dated lean manufacturing, became process optimization expertise. And his multi decade career became the proven ability to scale operations through market cycles. So the result was that he was able to land a VP of operations role at a fast growing SaaS company specifically because they really needed somebody who had his experience and also the judgment to build scalable systems. He had done it before. He was able to demonstrate and talk to it, and that was very, very valuable to them. Now, another one is the comeback, call it the comeback champion. She had had a significant gap in her work history. She's 53 and had been out of the workforce for 18 months after she had been laid off. And she was concerned that her gap was, preventing her from getting an offer. So what we did with her was that we positioned her break as a strategic sabbatical for professional development. And we used that gap to talk about the certifications and the consulting projects and the continuous learning that she had done during that time. So instead of apologizing and trying to make excuses for the gap, we made it part of her value proposition. So as a result, she was able to land a senior finance role with a 25% increase. And the hiring manager noted to her later on that he was very impressed with her intentional approach to professional development because one of their values was continuous learning. So, I think when we did that, that was key to me. And that's something I've been employing going forward is how can we use, similar circumstances to demonstrate continuous learning and things like that. So very good. So what do these stories have in common? Neither James or Sarah try to compete with the people half their age. They didn't try to downplay their experience, but what they did do was highlight and upplay what made them uniquely valuable and position their experience as a competitive advantage. So that is what championship looks like. That's what winning at the game at the age of 45 plus looks like. You don't win by pretending to be younger or less experienced. You win by being strategically your wonderful 45 plus self. Okay, now since we're talking about competing in today's market, I have to talk about AI because as you know, AI is changing the job search game. And you need to be using these tools strategically. Now, there's been a lot of talk about how you can get these AI tools to apply for hundreds of jobs within 30 minutes. Oh my goodness, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. And I'm going to talk more about that whole ordeal later on. But the good news is that you are able to use some of these AI tools to help you in your job search and is able to help people in ways they haven't even realized yet. It can modernize your approach overall. It can optimize your materials and your collateral, like your LinkedIn and your resume. And it can also help you practice your interview skills. And again, I've talked about a lot of this in my series, but going forward, you're going to hear me, talk a lot more specifically about how you can leverage these tools going forward starting next week. But the first strategy you can use for leveraging AI is your content, and use AI to help modernize your professional language and positioning. So here's an example of a powerful prompt you can use. You are a career strategist specializing in helping experienced professionals compete in modern job markets. Take my traditional resume bullet points and rewrite them using contemporary business language while emphasizing strategic value and forward looking impact. Ask me any questions you may have to successfully execute this task. AI strategy number 2 is interview preparation. AI is extremely helpful in helping experienced professionals prepare for interviews and even making your experience more contemporary. So here's an AI prompt that you can use. I'm going to put it down below so you can copy and paste it for future use later on. And it is: you are an interview coach for senior professionals. I'm interviewing for whatever specific role it is at whatever company it is. Based on my background in whatever industry it is, help me prepare answers that position my experience as strategic advantage rather than potential concern. So, the key insight there is AI is not replacing your experience, and judgment is actually enhancing your ability to communicate that value in contemporary language. Now, there are also some other prompts and ways you can use it for your interview prep and everything else. And I'm going to be getting more into that starting next week with these shorter, podcasts. So stay tuned for that. Now, let's talk about something that career advice misses, but the data clearly shows. The future actually favors experienced professionals more than ever before. So here's what's happening in the market right now. Recent hiring trends are showing strategic hiring of senior level professionals in fields like AI, healthcare, and advanced manufacturing, with private sectors actively recruiting senior talent. Most companies report the need to retain and get the most from older workers due to the knowledge that they bring. And they're offering all kinds of benefits for us, like flexibility and, like flexibility around remote working and part-time roles and contract roles to attract us. Now, here's the good news. By 2033, it's projected that 1 in 12 American workers will be 65 or older, a marked increase driven by both necessity and choice, as more seniors remain professionally active. So, from an employer perspective, companies are finally recognizing what the data shows. Older workers, us, our actual job performance often exceeds our younger counterparts. We are reliable, we are productive, we are loyal, and we have cross functional experience. And this is something that our younger counterparts don't. Now, if you're currently working and you're concerned about ageism, because again, layoffs are still taking place, you may still have opportunities to be promoted and recognized. So you also need to be aware of ageism and use it in a way to your advantage. So if you're working, or if, once you get a job, here is how you can use ageism to your advantage. Principle 1: become the bridge. The most valuable professionals over 45, they become bridges. They are the bridges between the old and the new, the traditional and the innovative, the institutional knowledge and emerging opportunities. So instead of competing with the younger folk, become indispensable at being the person who can translate between different generations, approaches, and business cycles. Very valuable. Principle number 2: strategic specialization. Develop expertise that deepens with experience rather than becoming obsolete. Now, guys, I can't emphasize this enough. There are some skills that are becoming obsolete by the day. And you really need to think about, what are you known for? What is your expertise, to be sure that it is in an area that is growing in demand. Okay. So this might be crisis management, complex negotiation, cultural leadership, strategic thinking. What are the things that AI is not able to do right now? that is where you want to develop deep expertise. So the key is choosing a specialization where your age and wisdom is an asset and not a liability. Principle number 3 is platform building. You want to start building your platform now so you can start building it whether you're, looking for a job or not. And this means, LinkedIn thought leadership, industry speaking, maybe teaching or even mentoring in your current organization. Because when you're known in your field, your age becomes less of a factor. That's because you are competing on reputation and results and not just resume screening. So, here's what I want you to understand. Your championship career over 45 isn't just about finding your next job. For us, it really is about positioning ourselves so that opportunities come to us. And it's about building a professional identity that becomes more valuable and not less valuable as you gain experience. So, there you have it. We've covered a lot of ground today. So, I want to bring this all together with the mindset shift that changes everything. Being over 45 in the job market is not a disadvantage. It is not a disadvantage you need to overcome. It is our competitive advantage that we just need to figure out how to leverage strategically. You have pattern recognition that you're automatically able to recognize expensive mistakes. You have relationship building skills, you have relationship building skills that you're able to build lasting partnerships. You have strategic thinking that comes from being experienced and being in different situations and having gone through multiple business cycles. And you have wisdom and judgment that only comes from experience and having those war wounds and making decisions when the stakes were real. These are the things that our younger counterparts aren't able to offer. So the question isn't whether you're valuable because you are. The question is whether you're positioning that value in a way that is going to get you recognized and rewarded. So here's what I want you to do after this episode for my people, my 45 plus crowd. One, audit your current positioning. Are you playing defense or offense? Are you apologizing for your experience or leveraging it strategically? Two, choose one of the tactical strategies we discussed today and implement it this week. Look at your resume, look at your LinkedIn, update your headline, rewrite your resume summary, or reach out to 3 strategic contacts to, keep your network alive. Number 3, shift your mindset from survival to championship. Stop being ashamed about being older. You're not just trying to find a job, you're strategically positioning yourself for opportunities that is going to recognize and reward all the experience that you have and your true value. So, again, here's the good news companies are valuing us even more than ever before. They are creating mentorship programs that we can participate in to mentor our younger colleagues. They are offering phased retirement. They are offering reskilling opportunities so that we can stay excited and engaged. And again, it's because studies show that we tend to be more reliable and productive. And that is something that they want. And that's a story that we need to claim. So we don't need to fight to prove that we're valuable because we're going to be stepping into a market that finally sees it. So with that, I wish you well. Reach out. Let me know if you're in the 45-45 club, as we used to say, the 50-50 club. If you're in the 45 plus club, let me know how you're working out in your job search. Again, you can reach out to me on my social media, send me a DM. Make sure you're following me on my social media, Exit to Excel, right here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Make sure you're subscribing because at the end of the day, regardless of what stage of the career you're in, we are bringing our A game to the job search. And I'll see you next week, starting every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Take care.